It's a pure performance space. It's not a bar, it's not a restaurant, it's not a club. It's a place for people to perform music.
I'd say in the very beginning of our relationship, it might have been competitive, like, oh man, Claire got that gig. Yeah, I was more competitive.
My very first gig in 1981 was with Tony Bennett in Rockford.
We got to back up the Temptations and Natalie Cole, play with some various symphonies, Joe Henderson's big band at the Hollywood Bowl. There was just a lot of work for someone like us out of school, so it seemed like a real viable career to just be a musician playing the saxophone and woodwinds.
At the time, yeah.
So we had all these great experiences. Meanwhile, some children come along and it was time for me to get a full-time job, so I decided to use my certificate in music education and get a job teaching, and so I was a middle school band director.
I was the assistant at Monarch High School, eventually was the head band director at Monarch High School for 5 years.
It was hard work because we would do our teaching during the day and then come home and practice. And we would just hand the baby off to one another. It's like, all right, your turn to practice. So we kept the practicing going and kept our chops up, so we're able to continue with our performing career as well.
Your playing really informs your teaching, and being still in the professional world in a big way really informs your teaching.
And you can share, like, you know, we're super passionate about our playing. We were able to share that with kids and kind of light a little fire with them as well. It really was a very fulfilling career.
11 years ago, I was diagnosed with dystonia, which is a movement disorder. And my particular type is called craniocervical, so it's in my jaw and tongue and neck and some eyes and face, but mostly jaw. So that was the end of my woodwind career. So I became a drummer. And when I got the dystonia, the teaching sort of saved me. I realized, wow, this is precious what I'm doing here. I need to, you know, be very grateful. So, and we had this thing we started, oddly, it was called Muse, Musical Understanding Through Sound Education, that we started in California to teach in parochial schools. And you'd see them once a week, and then you'd have like a big band rehearsal. So I was doing some of that when we got, you were doing some of that.
Yeah, I set up a lot of programs because I couldn't find a public school job when we first moved here. So I set up a bunch of the Muse at the time programs, and eventually started working in Boulder Valley until I was recruited to teach there full time. And a lot of those kids went to continue on in high school, and
it's still going on. It's still going on in the Bay Area and in Portland, Oregon, and in Denver, I think too, right?
I think
Somebody's
so, yeah.
still running them. We just were like, you can have it. We're going to do this other thing. I wanted to have a performance space that wasn't just based on, you know, sales of liquor or sales of food, like it's not a restaurant. And so it would be a place where not only I could recreate that community that I had essentially lost completely, and also have a place to play myself while I was establishing myself as a drummer. We could book the bands. We could play when we needed to. We could provide a community for the whole area and for ourselves.
And also, there's a lot of bands that present creative music or creative projects that maybe would not ever be booked at some other venues.
Yeah, original music.
Yeah, so we wanted to support original music, creative type of things.
I drove by here and this was for rent, and we had looked at a bunch of places and they were very expensive, as you can imagine, for rent. And I called up and found out what the rent was on this place, and it was it was not nice inside, let's just say. It needed a ton of work.
Walked in and said, perfect. The very first concert we had was in June 2018, and there was absolutely 0 people here except me.
And the band.
And the band. And things did start to pick up by 2020. In the fall, we were getting pretty regular customers and fairly busy. And then, of course, the pandemic hit and just shut everything down. But I want to say we were one of the first places to start doing live streams.
We were the first place.
As crummy as it was at first, but we got pretty good at it, and then had a lot of bands coming in. They were getting supported by people online with donations, and so that kind of kept us going. When there's a good house in here and everything's going great, it's just very rewarding.
And when we're both here and we try to greet people at the door like they're coming into our home, you know, and we've actually had many people say, it just feels like home here. I just feel like I'm coming home, you know. So it is rewarding to create a community like that. The musicians and the audiences both feel like they're just comfortable. We've had people say that, you know, it's like it's somebody's living room, but bigger.
It's casual, intimate, friendly, but yet you're going to hear some really top-notch performers. So it's those concerts that are so moving, you can tell everybody in the audience is moved, and that probably wouldn't have happened anywhere else. Because there's been times where like, should we keep doing this? You know, this amount of work, or, you know, we're not making it financially or whatever. And then you have those reminder concerts and experiences like, no, let's keep doing this. This is great.